And progressive policies getting called out for the crime wave ripping across the country. Democrat New York City Mayor Eric Adams putting the pressure on woke laws that put dangerous criminals back onto the street.
Major mistakes made throughout the years that destroyed the trust that the police commissioner is talking about. We have to rebuild that trust, but we can't rebuild that trust by allowing those who are dangerous and that have a repeated history of violence to continue to be on our streets.
Greg, we're heading into the summer. We usually see these upticks in crimes in summer as well. And the mayor says that on the Sunday show, and leading into the summer, like he has a choice to make. So, side with the victims and the people of the city that want more security, or with these woke Democrats like Bragg, his prosecutor.
We went from Christ has risen to crime has risen. How do you like that?
Did you work on that?
Yes, took me 2 hours.
I like it.
It's not about crime. It's about the recidivism. I mean, the thing is, the crime would go down if you stopped letting the people out that were committing the crimes. I think that's where we've run into this problem when we go like, well, when we look at every suspect in these crimes and they have just like a paper trail, and you start to think, well, in all of these arenas of society, whether it is crime or education, the border, there's a rejection of systems and structure and process. We used to be okay with that, but then we started talking about the systemic problems, and we started taking apart these processes. And that's really bad for a society that naturally decays. We're already entropic. We already get older. Things fall apart. That is why you have prisons and you have laws, you have borders and you have standards. And now we're basically saying that the same sensible rules and laws that we have for everybody are now not for everybody because we have the systemic bigotry, the systemic racism. So we've reduced, in some ways, eliminated disincentives for crime, and then crime goes up. So you have somebody who's now a shooting suspect who's in house arrest. You've eliminated one disincentive, which is prison. It might be not such a bad risk to commit crime if the worst thing you're going to get is sit at home with your ankle bracelet. So that's the issue. The issue here is that we're dismantling the things that society desperately needs to hold us together.
Judge, what do you think about the decision to grant the bail at $25,000 and the ankle monitor option?
It's absurd. And it's a reflection of where we are in our society. Greg is talking about the elimination of the disincentives. What we're seeing now, during the holidays, you see crime surge among family members. And in the summer, you see crime on the streets among gang members. But today, based upon what the left has done in this so-called social justice agenda, is they're making crimes at malls like the one in South Carolina, club shooting in South Carolina, and an Airbnb in Pennsylvania. We're talking about 10 people shot, 11 people shot. This kid getting out a house monitor with an ankle bracelet. You should be ashamed of yourself. Whoever that judge is should be ashamed of herself or himself. What we've got is progressive policies that are destroying this country. And the truth is that it is the deliberate release of these individuals who go out and commit crime because they have been emboldened by the lack of consequence that we have created with this social justice agenda. There is now a more of an interest in the criminal than the victim. And I feel like a broken record. I keep saying that. But it's about the violent among us and trying to make them better, when the truth is that what they're doing is making society worse. And, this is something that is only going to get worse. As people come in through the border, they talk about 23, and we'll talk about this later, on terrorist lists, but there's so many who don't get caught. And they see what's going on. They see Americans aren't being held accountable. Why should they? Hell, I'm here for the American dream. And I don't mean to put them all down. A lot of them are working hard. But what we've got is a message that we have sent to 300 and whatever million people. It's okay if you see your neighbor's house and you want something in it, you want the car. If you kill someone, it's an accident. We'll let you get away with it. It's terrible.
The L.A. County Sheriff ripped that prosecutor, Gascon. I think we have this sound. If we could play that, please.
I've had one conversation with him. That was his first week in office, where we had an issue of mutual concern on one particular case. But his predecessor, we met every 3 months. I met her in her office. She met me in my office.
Yes.
We shared concerns. Exactly what you're saying we did. Well, this gentleman, unless you come from the public defender's office, You were a Black Lives Matter activist. Those are about the only people he's speaking to. Everyone else just doesn't exist in his world.
Jessica, get your thoughts on that and just the crime in general that is increasing all across America.
It's objectively terrible. And these showdowns that are going to go on between sheriffs and DAs or the mayors and DAs, that's going to be happening in liberal cities all over the country, certainly as we head into another spate of elections where people make big decisions. And I think what's going on, at least in liberal communities, is people feel betrayed by these people that we elected to be ambassadors for our values. So I'm someone who believes in second chances, that I would rather someone who can get it right not go and even spend one night in prison if they can get back on the street and they can not do it again. But when people are continually letting you down in this way, and it doesn't seem like the officials that you put in charge of the problem, who you thought had the same values as you, get it, then I think people are going to either stop showing up for elections. I don't think they're necessarily going to turn on who they vote for. It would take a lot to make the Upper West Side vote for a Republican. But it does leave an opportunity, at least, to be having these very tough conversations that Democrats, in a lot of cases, don't have a good answer for. And it'll be interesting to see if Republicans can come up with solutions themselves that can appeal to people. Because at this moment in liberal cities, you're not turning LA red. Right. But what are you going to do about it if you are someone who has a different point of view or who thinks that these policies are really putting people in danger? And I haven't seen that coming from the other side.
But it's there, except that every time a Republican tries to position themselves as pro-crime, you paint them as racist or intolerant. And so there's a one-party system in New York. No Republican bothers to vote anymore because there's no way. And this is happening in every city. There's no other opposition because the opposition is essentially smeared at every opportunity.
But every Democrat is smeared as a communist or
Aren't they?
socialist. Oh, I forgot. No, I mean, the name calling, obviously, when you're talking about real issues, it becomes a tremendous problem.
But I think that when you see the parents of children who've been killed, who reach out to people like George Gascon and Boudin in San Francisco, who can't get an answer, people like Gascon who are releasing convicted murderers without telling the victims that they're coming out, those are the people who are calling out the Democrats. You don't even need us to do it.
But there also are,
I want to get Sean in here.
But like Lucy McBath, or these people who've lost their kids to gun violence, they don't feel like they're being listened to by the Republican Party at all.
Well, but did the criminal go to jail? Did the criminal go to jail? Yes. If you're saying that the gun didn't go to jail, then she feels she wasn't listened to. Okay, but the criminal went to jail. And that's the job.
But Judge, we're on the same side of this issue. I look at whether it's Gascon, DAs and judges and sheriffs, they're all elected by people. This is a democracy, and so we have people in L.A. and New York that are electing woke liberal officials that implement these policies, and then we're outraged by the crime that happens with the policy, but really the people have asked for the policy because they voted for these folks to take the position of power. And so if you want to change the narrative, you have to change the elected officials, and whether it's Republicans or Democrats, I don't care who. I just want someone to be pro-law enforcement. And one last point. When you look at these policies that have changed over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, and this explosion in crime, this wouldn't have happened 30 years ago because we had ethics and morals and values and we had families. But something's happened, to your point, Greg, in culture where there's been a degradation that when you have lax policies where you can commit a crime and just get the ankle bracelet, people are committing them where 30 years ago they never would have picked up the gun. I said 30 years. Well,
that was the 90s. I agree with you on that. Crime was pretty bad.
Not like this.
Well, that's how we got the crime bill that we all know about.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.